Hello, everyone. Welcome to Vinyasa Flow Yoga. Um, find a seat on your mat. I'm Dee, and this is my sidekick stretch. And we'll start from any comfortable seated position. You might have a couple blocks near you, by the way. You probably could get away without using them, but I'll cue for them just so that you can understand how they might be helpful, I guess. So sitting up nice and tall, pressing your sits bones into the ground, and just letting that downward motion give you the stability to lift up through your chest without lifting your shoulders. Try to relax the jaw. And then close down the eyes if you haven't already. And one thing about closing the eyes is it's kind of hard. So if it feels better to just lower your gaze, that's always an option. And just know that with any cue, please feel totally free to modify and adjust as it suits you. That way you make it your yoga. And let's begin to take deeper breaths. We're just drawing our energy inside. Excuse me, before we start to practice. In this way, we can honor our body a little more, knowing what is happening when we sense discomfort, knowing how to come out of the pose, just go backwards from how you moved into it, and making all those adjustments to make the yoga experience a really fulfilling one. And continue breathing as we unite the mind with the body. And just see if you can feel into your feet, your calves, your thighs, your abdomen, and your chin. And let the breaths get a little deeper. And just notice how well you're beginning to focus inside of yourself. Some days our mind is more squirrely than others. Some days thoughts may pull you away from the practice fairly often, and that's okay. We know there'll be better days where we can focus more. And we can also learn that with a more consistent practice, the focus becomes more easy, especially to complete for long periods of time, like a minute, without thinking, right? That would be wonderful. And so let's move into a pranayama now called box breath. Box breath has 4 parts to it, just like a box has 4 sides. And they can be rectangular or square. And the same, our breath could be the same pace, whether we're breathing in, pausing, exhaling, or pausing before the inhale. So those are the 4 sides. And we can choose to make the pauses less in length than our inhales and exhales. So when you're ready to begin, divide your breath into 4 parts: inhaling, holding, exhaling, and holding. and begin to develop a pattern that works for you and a length that works for you, seeing if you can build on the length, especially during the inhales and the exhales, if not each breath or each part, sorry, of the breath. Notice what's happening internally. Maybe you're noticing more peace of mind. Maybe you're noticing a connection to your heart center. Let your next exhale release this breathing. Let your body start to breathe itself without your intervention. And next, let's begin to just wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, little small movements with the fingers and toes. And then we'll move it into the feet, maybe start to blink open our eyes slowly. Move it into the hands, maybe point and flex, windshield wiper, roll your wrists, whatever feels good. And let's bend each knee out to the side and press our feet together, coming into butterfly. And just notice whether you feel like having your heels far away from your hips or closer to your hips. Maybe you're making a diamond shape with your legs. Maybe you're making more of a triangle. Do what works for you. You could even grab a couple of blocks, either place them under the knees or where your thigh meets the floor. We're going to begin to open our hips here, sitting up as tall as we can, leveling out the chin, maybe holding onto the legs for support, steadiness, balance, and just lightly pressing the toes, the heels, the sides of the feet together. And now let's begin to straighten one of the legs out. We can move the block if we placed it underneath, and we'll straighten that foot out and draw the bent knee foot in towards our hip as much as comfortable. We can keep the block under there, we can move it. Let's turn towards that leg and inhale both arms up over our head, reach for the ceiling, and we'll exhale, releasing our chin to our chest, nose to knee pose. Toes are facing up towards the ceiling. And we're leaning over till we get a gentle stretch in the back of this leg. We're going to use our core strength on the next inhale to lift ourselves up, but also lift our arms straight out in front of us, just like we did to come down. We'll inhale the arms up and then exhale to lower the arms by our side. Let's now replace this foot back in for just a short butterfly in between. And then let's straighten the opposite leg out. Maybe move that block out of the way. Maybe move both of them. Draw the heel in. Sit up nice and tall on the sits bones. We'll turn toward this leg. Inhale the arms up, out to the side, towards the ceiling. Exhale, release the chest forward. Let your hands float down so they can support your upper body. And let yourself lean enough to feel that stretch in the back of the leg. Let your next inhale lift your torso up, lift your arms. We'll do the reverse as we inhale, fingers to ceiling, exhale, arms come down. And now let's bring that foot back into the butterfly pose. Let's move the blocks out of the way. And let the knees come farther up towards our shoulders and then back down. And let's do that a few times. Just get a little motion, opening and closing. And you may find that in this position, you're able to let the knees release a little lower, meaning that by doing this multiple times and a bit faster, you release a little more. Now let's take our first two fingers on each hand, wrap them around the big toe. So we've got these little hooks that we're making with our fingers, and then we're wrapping them around the toes, the big toes. Let's leave one foot on the ground and let's lift the opposite foot up and see if we can straighten it as much as possible, going out to the side, and then we'll replace that leg. Let's do it on the other side, straightening that knee, holding on to the toes, and then returning that foot. Next inhale, we can release the toes and bring the knees together. And let's make our way up to table. Maybe you use a rolled up towel or blanket under your knees. Maybe you have carpeting, so it's not necessary. Find your flat tabletop and bring your pelvis to neutral. Then start pelvic tilting. So we'll just let the navel lift and lower. And notice what's happening to your tailbone. It's tucking under and then lifting up. Tucking under and then lifting up. Have a tight belly so that you're strong 360 degrees around your core. Wrists are right under shoulders, knees are right under hips. And let's start to cat-cow, where we're really pressing on the hands, drawing the navel up towards the spine, but also rounding our shoulders and dropping our head. And then we'll release the navel, lift the head, lift the tailbone, drop the head and tailbone again as we swing to the opposite side, letting our backs undulate. Such a cool word. And then we'll bring our spines to neutral. Let's come down into puppy dog here by walking the hands forward. The shoulders stay where they are, the hips stay where they are. I shouldn't say the shoulders stay where they are, because as we begin to slide our hands forward, the shoulders are going to lower to the floor. The chest lowers, but the hips stay right where they are, and we'll come into puppy dog. This is called something like draping heart in yin, and I love that name because it really does feel like the heart is draping. See if you can release your chest towards the floor here. Your arms kind of holding you up and balancing you. Your feet may have floated up off the floor. That's okay. They may have come together. That's okay too. Now let's inhale, lift just the head. We're going to kind of army crawl to come all the way onto our stomach. From here, we're going to take advantage of the position and come into half lotus on each side and then a full lotus. So let's rest our forehead for a second. Just try to see what the spacing's like. What's the room for your nose, your glasses, your forehead? Maybe there isn't. But so let's lift the head off the mat on the next inhale. And let's lift one foot and one arm on one side. Pick the shoulder up and back and see if you can reach the hand to the foot while you lift the foot in the back. So we're moving just on one side and we're exhaling to release that. We can even bend up through the opposite arm, make a little pillow for our forehead, rest it on the back of the palm. Same side, let's lift one more time on the next inhale. We'll lift the leg and the foot. We can keep that opposite arm right underneath the head so that as we exhale and bring the body down to the floor, we've got a nice pillow for our forehead. Inhale to lift one more time into half locust. Exhale, release the head, hand, and foot. Let's bend up through the opposite elbow, release that right hand by your side, and then we'll inhale, lifting up the right hand, right foot. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift up the head, the right hand, the right foot, and then exhale to release. One more time. Next inhale, lift, and then lower on the exhale. Let's now come into full locust. Both arms are down by our side. Next inhale, we'll lift just the hands and the feet, the head just slightly, in other words. Exhale, release. Next inhale, we'll lift the head a little more. Hands and feet lift. Exhale, release. Draw both arms forward. Stack the hands, make a little pillow, and let your lower part of your body, or your front side rather, just melt into the floor. Feel the release from the lumbar spine. Let your gluteus maximus release, surrounding the backs of the hips. Let your femurs release. Let the tops of your feet release. And on the next inhale, we'll place our hands underneath our shoulders and we'll come on up to table once again. Take your time to lift up. I just had a moth fly in my path. And let's do cat-cow again. Maybe particularly focusing on rounding the spine, dropping the head and tailbone in. Letting the spine undulate. Let's bring our back now to neutral and let's step the left foot forward. Let's draw it in between both hands and kind of inch that foot up towards the top of the mat. Then lean forward with your hips so that the right leg knee unbends a little bit. And we can use blocks here to kind of bring the floor a little closer to our hands. But the idea is to lunge forward here, letting the front of the back hip release right by the thigh. We can take our blocks with us, maybe even come up onto the highest level to shift the hips slowly back. Let's ground that forward heel and lift the toes and bring this into a hamstring stretch. So you can walk your hands forward, draw your chest and abdomen to your thigh, or you can lift yourself up, stay more upright for this shape. Whatever that knee underneath you can tolerate is probably a good way to measure that. Let the next exhale slowly lower your toes to the mat and sink your hips forward, coming into this lunge one more time. And then on your next inhale, draw that left foot back, coming back into your table. Maybe you're still up on blocks, that's fine. Let your next inhale draw the right foot forward. You might have to bring your foot out to the side and then in towards the midline so that your front foot and the back knee and foot are all hip distance apart from each other. Sink your hips forward and down. Feel the stretch in the front of that back thigh. Maybe your chest is already lifted. Maybe your chest is pretty close to your thigh. Do what you need to do with the top part of your body so that as you begin to lift and set your hips back, grounding the front heel, you can lift your front toes and stretch the hamstring here, adjusting the blocks to wherever you'd like to be with your upper body. whatever space feels good. And then we'll rock the hips forward one more time. Take a few more breaths in this lunge. Hopefully, stretching helps us move a little more smoothly in our sun salutations in a moment. We'll draw this foot back to come back into our table. We'll curl under both toes, press down on the feet, keep the heels lifted as we lift our knees and hips up and back. Downward facing dog. You can walk your feet in towards you if you don't like the length between your hands and your feet. You can walk your feet out. You can walk your feet wider if that's easier on your hips. And you can lift and lower your heels. Try to come up on your tippy toes, stretching the backs of the toes before lowering the heels back down. You can bend and straighten your knees here. You could draw your chest towards your thigh for a nice shoulder stretch, arm strengthening. And as you're ready, walk your hands towards your feet or your feet towards your hands, doesn't matter. You're now in a forward fold. On the next inhale, we'll lift our arms out to the side, lift them up overhead. Be careful of ceiling fans. And exhale, hands down to the heart. I'm going to be limiting how I lift my arms. I usually don't have the fan on when I'm teaching, but it's been so hot lately, I've had to use it. So let's come to the top of our mat and prepare for sun salutations. I do like to keep 2 blocks right by my side at the top of the mat to help me with my lunges. So it's up to you if you use them or not. Bring your pelvis to a neutral position. Press your feet both into the floor. They're side by side. Let's inhale, bring our arms up overhead as much or as little as you want. Bend elbows and knees and send your chest towards the floor into a forward fold. Let your arms hang here as you breathe. Your head hangs. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, release all the way down. Bend the knees so that your hands can press into the floor and step the left foot back. This could be a low kneel or a high kneel. This is where you can use the blocks too. Let your next inhale lift you up away from that front leg, stacking shoulders on top of hips. And this might be a balance challenge in itself. So hands can stay low or drawn in towards the middle of the body. Or you can bring your arms up into cactus arms. Elbows are shoulder height. Hands are open. Palms facing forward, directly over elbows. Exhale, we'll lower our upper body towards the floor. Hands plant. We'll step that right foot back to come into plank or half plank. Take a couple of breaths in your plank. Then let the next inhale press on the toes, lift yourself slightly forward, then lower yourself down, letting your chest, neck, hips, and thighs come to the mat. Inhale, keeping your hands planted under the shoulders, elbows in, and lift head, neck, and chest, peeling yourself away from the floor, pressing through the hands there. Exhale to release. The feet move from being flat to curled under. We'll come up to table and then up to downward facing dog. We'll stretch here in down dog. Press into your right foot. Inhale to lift the left foot up and back. Exhale. Let the left knee bend. Step that left foot forward to come into your high kneel, your high lunge, or stay in a low lunge. Inhale, arms either leaving them by your side, bringing them to your hips or heart, or coming into cactus arms. Exhale, we release the hands. We'll try to keep the weight on that front foot, leaning forward. Step that back foot up until you slowly come up to standing or quickly come up to standing. Inhale the arms out to the side, up towards the ceiling, palms come together. Exhale, hands come to the heart. Take a breath here, and then we'll move to the other side. Let your next exhale release your arms down by your side. Next inhale, arms come out and up. Palms come together. Exhale, nose dive forward, fold, bend your knees and elbows. Let your head and arms hang for a breath or two. Inhale, come up halfway. Hands come to thighs, knees straighten. The length of your spine elongates. Exhale, release, crouch down towards the floor. This time we step the right foot back. We use the blocks, or maybe not, to come up into a high or low lunge. Inhale the hands where they're comfortable, perhaps coming into cactus arms. Exhale, release forward, upper body lowers, hands plant, step that left foot back, coming into plank or half plank. Inhale, pressing through the toes, lifting the head before you lower the entire body and flatten the feet. Inhale up to cobra, pressing on the hands, elbows in. Exhale, release from cobra, come up to table, come up to downward facing dog. Stretch here for a moment. Then we'll press into the left foot. Inhale to lift the right leg up and back. Bend that knee as you exhale and draw the foot forward, using your blocks or not, coming into a low or high lunge once more. Inhaling arms to cactus, keeping them at your heart or waist. Exhale releases just the hands, and we'll step forward, leaning into that forward leg and knee. Come to the top of the mat. Inhale the arms up overhead. Palms come together. Exhale, hands to your heart. Take a moment to see how you feel now. How much heat has built up in your body? What's your breath rate like? Let's try to slow down our breath. Just let it deepen here for a second. And then let's release our hands from our heart. Let's inhale. Our arms are going to come up overhead or into cactus arms, and we're going to press up onto our toes and start walking around our mat. This is palm tree. So just balance on your tippy toes, walk to the front, back, cross both sides maybe. Maybe you cross one leg over the other, maybe you keep the legs in line with the hips more. And when you're at the back of your mat, go ahead and stop. Actually, I didn't set that up as well as I thought I did. Let's put our blocks, if you have them, right in front of our mat, maybe about 6 inches, half a foot. And then we'll come back to standing at the bottom of our mat. We're going to do a sequence on one side forward and then do the exact opposite back, and then do the other side forward and back. So we're going to land up doing 9 poses all together, but there's only 3 different ones. So from a standing position, from mountain at the bottom of our mat, let's step our right foot forward as if we were taking a step. Let's lift the back heel and push it or rotate it rather. Push was not a good word. And then lower it down on the mat. This is going to make the back foot at a diagonal. We're going to bend the front knee, and you might readjust where you are on the mat or readjust how far apart your legs are from each other. As you bend that knee, we want to put some weight on that upper thigh, right? Get some weight bearing yoga here. Now let's put our hands on our hips. We're going to turn towards our left, towards the long edge of the mat. And then we're going to turn our hips back towards the short edge of the mat. We're going to make sure the hips are forward. So if that causes you to change the way your feet were just set up, that's fine. Let's inhale into cactus arms in this warrior one. We'll exhale, releasing just the arms. Let's come up onto the back toes now. Step that foot forward. The right leg is our standing leg, so we're stepping the left foot forward. We're going to draw that knee up and turn the foot so that the toes and the heel are in line with the standing leg knee. We're going to take the arm on the standing leg side, put our thumb and pointer finger together, and bend the elbow and kind of curve the arm out to the side and place that mudra on the right hand right in front of the right thigh or hip. Then we'll take the left arm, swoop it up and over, make that same mudra, thumb touches pointer, and we'll round the left arm across our head. So this is dancing Shiva. Now press through your heel and the pose is complete. Put a little micro bend in the standing leg. Whoops. And if you fall, that's okay. If you come out of balance, come back into balance. We'll take that left foot that's lifted and we're going to stomp it down right in front of us and shift our weight and hips forward over that leg, which is now our standing leg. Then we want to reach down towards our blocks, or maybe not reach down at all, and keep our toe right and back pointed on the ground. The big toe, anyway. The little toes probably don't reach. If you'd like to lift that back leg and come into warrior three, you can. If you'd like to use a wall, a table, a piece of furniture to steady yourself, you can do that too. Turn the toes of the lifted foot inward. That lowers the hip. Now we'll go backwards. So we're going to exhale. The right foot comes down. The toes touch. We'll inhale, lift up our upper body. If you did that all together, that was fine too. Shift your weight onto that back leg, that right leg. Come into dancing Shiva. Lifting the knee, curving the arms in a circle, upper and lower, around the trunk of the body. Then we'll step back with that lifted left leg, come into our warrior one. Hips pointing forward, but the back foot is at a diagonal. We'll inhale our arms up into cactus arms, and then exhale the arms down. We've got our weight in the forward and the backward foot. So let's inhale and bring that front foot to the back. We often do the opposite, so we're just flipping the script today. We'll start again at the back of our mat with that series of poses on the other side by stepping the left foot forward. Lifting up that back toe, bringing that heel in a little closer to the midline, bending the front knee, coming into a little bit of a lunge. Remember to let your hips go to the right this time, and then let them come forward so that we know the hips are straight towards the top of the mat. We'll inhale. Arms can come up into cactus. We'll exhale, release our arms, shift ourselves up to Shiva by pressing off that back foot, drawing it forward. The left foot is now our standing leg. We'll lift the knee, bring the right toes and heel in line with the left knee. Right knee goes out to the side. And then low arm, is the left this time. Upper arm is the right, and we'll press through the heel. Coming in and out of the pose as often as we need to maintain our stability. Now press that lifted foot down, stomp it in front of you, shift your weight forward, reach your hands for your blocks, or you could put them on your thigh, lift the back leg, turn the heel out, bring the toes in, micro bend in the knee. Use props or furniture as needed, including walls. And then we'll release this pose in reverse, inhaling to lift the upper body as you lower the leg. We'll step back onto the left foot as our standing leg, find our dancing Shiva, and then step the lifted right foot and dancing Shiva back to find our warrior one, feet and hips and knees, and come into cactus arms. Let the next exhale release. And then let's draw that front foot back by taking as many steps as we need to draw it under us. And we can shake our arms and legs at this point. And let's inhale. We're still at the back of the mat. We'll inhale our arms out and up overhead. Exhale, we'll nose dive forward fold. Let the arms and head hang. Let's now bend the knees and bring the hands down to the floor. See if you can walk your hands away from your feet or walk your feet away from your hands and kind of adjust where you are on your mat to come back into downward facing dog. Lift and lower your heels. Stretch here for a moment. And from downward facing dog, let's head into plank or half plank. And let's hold here for a few breaths. On your next inhale, press on the hands, bring the hips on top of the knees, and then lower into that same puppy dog we were in earlier. Releasing your head, neck, and chest towards the floor, maybe walking your hands out a little wider to give your shoulders a little more room. Maybe your toes are tucked under, maybe your feet are flat. Let your abdomen hang from the navel up to the bottom of your rib cage. Let your rib cage hang, bleeding heart or draping heart. Let your next inhale lift you up into table. We'll walk our hands 2 handprints in front of where they were. And let's draw the right knee towards the right wrist first, coming into pigeon. We can leave the right foot right under the right hip, cinch the right hip down, extend that left leg long, or we can move the right foot, if our knee is okay with it, to a place right in front of the left thigh, and then sink down. Sink the hips as low as they'll go. It might help to place a block under the hip that's lifted to just give it a little bit of support. We can leave our upper body extended for a breath or two. letting the hands prop you up and the arms. See if you can feel the length of your upper body. Let your lower half of your body be anchored, and then find some length in the spine. And see if you would like to fold forward a little more and lower down, onto your forearms. And take a breath or two here. If you'd like to lower your chest all the way down, you can come on to your hands with your forehead. You could also rock your hips from left to right. See if that feels good. Let's let the next inhale lift us up away from the ground. We'll pull that knee back, coming into that loose tabletop shape. And then we'll draw the left knee forward this time. Maybe the foot goes in a slightly different place. Remember, it can be directly under that left hip, or we can walk the foot over to the right side and then cinch our hips down towards the mat from there. Right leg extends long behind you. And let's prop ourselves up on our hands and arms for a moment. Find that length, that extension between the lower part of your body and the upper part. So the back legs extended long, but the whole lower body is very grounded here, lying on the floor. Find that extension in the upper body and begin to lower yourself down if you wish, coming perhaps onto your forearms, or if you choose, all the way down so that your forehead touches your stacked palms. On the next inhale, start to lift yourself up away from the mat. Press down on your hands to draw that knee back. And let's sink back into child's pose. We'll draw the knees wide, bring the big toes together, and extend the chest towards the floor. Arms are up overhead, and let's walk our hands away from us, lifting our elbows up off the mat, maybe coming up onto our fingertips and thumb tip, finding the length in this pose. Feel your hips really sinking back as far as they'll go, but then feel your shoulders trying to lift away from your hips. Next inhale will bring us back up into table. From here, take your right foot, lift it up off the floor. The toes come up off the floor, and set the foot over to the right side of the mat. You're up on the tips of your right toes here. Now press into your right side, that hand and that knee and foot. Stretch your left leg long and come onto the inside edge. The left hand can stack right above the side body, bent elbow, and hand on hip. We're coming into half moon. If you'd like, you can lift your arm, stacking the arm on top. If you'd like, you can lift the lower leg, coming into a shape where two limbs are extended and two limbs are balancing us. Release whenever you'd like by letting the foot and arm float down We'll square off the chest and the hips, and let's sink back into child's pose once again. But let's relax, maybe bending our elbows, maybe drawing our arms down along our legs, letting our hands grab our feet. And then let the next inhale bring us back up into our table. We'll do that pose on the opposite side. So this time we pick up the left foot, we extend it out, make a little kickstand, come up onto those toes. Extend the right leg long, come on up to the inside edge of that right foot. Heel in line with toes. Inhale to lift the hand. Right arm stacks on top of left. And then inhale if you'd like to lift the right foot. Bringing it up to hip height or anywhere in between. Doesn't matter how high or how low. Holding for as many breaths as you'd like. Releasing on an exhale as you're ready to let go. Squaring off shoulders and hips and sinking into that resting child's pose. Take a few extra breaths here. Let's inhale and come up to table. Let's do a quick sequence where we come down onto one forearm. We can start with the right or the left, then bring the opposite side down. Then the first side lifts, come onto that hand, and the second side lifts. And do a few of these where you come down to the floor, you're tight in the belly and in the core. Then you stand on each hand. So you come back into table and you're lifting and lowering in the same sequence. One arm, then the other forearm, then the hand, then the opposite hand. Now do it backwards. Little brain trick. And we'll all meet in table. Let's come into puppy dog one more time. Hips stay above knees. We lower head, neck, and chest. We let the abdomen release, the chest release. It's almost like our arms are holding us up in the floor. Well, they are. But just feel into that. Be aware of it. That can help you relax and release in the middle section there more. Then on the next inhale, we'll army crawl like we did the first time. We'll come onto our stomach briefly so we can roll onto our spine. Once you roll onto your spine, just take a minute, check in, make sure you're even on your mat, centered after all that squirming and wiggling. Knees can be bent towards the sky or legs can be straight. Take a couple more breaths here. On your next inhale, set yourself up so that your arms are drawn along your sides. The soles of your feet are on your mat and knees are bent to the sky. We're going to inhale, lifting just the left foot up into the air, bending the knee and crossing the foot to set it on top of the right thigh or knee. We can push on this thigh if that feels good. Most people like to lift that right foot, interlace their hands behind the right thigh, and draw both legs into their body. So do whichever you'd like best. If you want to rock from side to side, sort of feel how the stretch in the hip changes if you rock. You might want to stay still, clutching the back of the right thigh. Right foot can be lifted in the air, or the heel can be towards the hip. If you'd like, you can use the left elbow to sort of draw the left thigh away from you as you're pulling in the right thigh. Increases the stretch just a little bit. Let your next exhale release. Both legs float away, uncross. And let's straighten the legs long and take a full body stretch. Inhaling both arms up and back, stretching the legs, stretching the arms, stretching the middle part of the body even. And then we'll meet again with our arms down by our side. We'll walk our feet up onto the mat, knees bent to the sky. This time we inhale, the right foot lifts towards the ceiling. We'll come into piriformis stretch on this side by bending that right knee out, setting the ankle on top of the right thigh. And we can push, on top of the left thigh. We can push the right thigh away with our right palm, or we can lift both legs, draw in, we reach our hands, interlace the fingers behind the left thigh, and draw the legs in toward us, feeling the stretch in the hip. We can rock from side to side if we'd like. Noticing what happens to the stretch in the hip and where it moves. We can push that right thigh away with the right elbow as we're drawing the left leg in further. Let your next exhale release both legs away from you. And let's do yogi's choice, student choice yoga. So if you want to do windshield wipers or a yoga walk or a wide angled legs or bridge pose, a twist, reclining twist, anything that your body's calling for that you could give it in the next few breaths. If it's pose where you have to do both sides, don't forget the second side. Let's all meet with our knees tucked towards our chest and our arms wrapped around our legs. And let's rock from side to side. Maybe even let your knee come all the way down so your elbow touches the floor and you push off. Maybe you like laying on one side and you stay there for a little bit. And the next time your knees are over your chest, let your feet float down to the mat and make yourself a little pillow with your blanket. It's a flat pillow, but still, for final Shavasana, let your legs come into whatever comfortable position works for you, knees bent or straight. And let's do a breathing practice similar to box, but let's just insert one pause, which means you have to choose whether you insert it before your inhale or after your inhale. So as you're ready, and once you're 100% comfortable, you've made all the adjustments necessary, resting your arms by your side or perhaps on your torso, elbows touching the floor so that arms can relax. Slowly begin the pattern of inhaling, exhaling, but also including a pause. Maybe just start inhaling and exhaling and see where the pause ends up being. Maybe you let your body decide and not your mind. Let the breath come in smoothly and leave smoothly. As you breathe in, think of pulling the breath in deeper. And as you breathe out, think of breathing out slower. And don't forget your pause. Check in with your body, making sure that you're completely relaxed, not holding on anywhere. Letting it all go. If you haven't yet closed your eyes, think about drawing your gaze lower or closing your eyes. See if the transitions between the parts of the breath are smooth. Take 3 more breaths here. And on your next breath in, begin to rock your head from side to side. Letting your chin come over towards one shoulder, rotate back to center, and over the opposite way. Next time your chin passes through the middle of your chest, let it stop as you move your head. And then we'll roll over onto one side and inhale to press away from the floor. We'll come into a comfortable seated position just for a moment or two to close our time together today. letting the sits bones press into the floor, mat, or prop, finding the extension of the spine above it from that place, that base in our body. We'll relax our arms to our sides. Inhale, lifts the arms out and up overhead. Palms come together. Exhale, hands to your heart. Close down the eyes. And on the next exhale, release your chin towards your chest as you bow to the divine goddess that's found inside of you. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Let your next inhale lift your chin, flutter open your eyes, release your hands, and thank you so much for joining me for today's Vinyasa Flow Yoga class. Stretch was good. He didn't try to distract me too much. See you next week. Take care.